She's rude to me. All the time.
We can file for divorce.
That seems like a lot of effort. Let's just stay married.
Even though you're not happy.
Miserable.
Are you ready now?
Yeah.
Hey, baddies.
What's up, guys?
Today is episode 15. We are setting boundaries and we are sticking to them.
And we were talking about why you suck at setting boundaries. And why it's impacting your relationship.
Called out. Well, because boundaries are like, they're not just about you. They're about the people around you. They're about relationship building. They're about business relationship building. They're good for you with your parents and your grandparents.
They're about respect for yourself, protecting your peace.
And if a relationship isn't going to hold up, if it ain't going to hold up in court, was it ever even worth it? So let's chat about
let's
a thing.
Dive right into this because we got some questions for you. You're going to be on trial with your boundaries and your lack of boundary setting. So first question that I want you to ask yourself is, what are you actually afraid will happen if you enforce your boundary? Are you afraid of rejection, abandonment, conflict, being called selfish, because that's a thing, or discovering that the relationship that you had wasn't really, it only worked when you worked on it?
Yeah, I feel like oftentimes there are people that are in our lives that call us their bestie or their family, or they call us when it benefits them. And I think setting hard, firm boundaries with people, whether that's in regards to how they treat you, when they're allowed to call you, when they're allowed to just show up and come over to your house, when they can borrow money, how that looks.
When they can borrow money is
all of those things kind of are, that's setting boundaries. And sometimes that really makes people be like, you're selfish. God, my favorite thing is when you start setting boundaries with someone that you've never had to set a boundary with, or if you are coming to the realization that you are dealing with a narcissist or you're in an abusive situation and you start to set boundaries, suddenly you are selfish, suddenly you're too good for them, suddenly you are a bitch, suddenly you think you're better than everybody else. Like, it's just what have you that they want to throw in your face.
People will put a lot of labels on you. So I mean, really, I feel like a lot of people get really anxious when it comes to setting boundaries, because it's like, what are you actually afraid of? Are you afraid of that rejection? Are you afraid of that judgment? Are you afraid of even being alone if that relationship doesn't work out? So really ask yourself, like, what are you afraid of? Because ultimately that fear is holding you back from setting that boundary. And with setting boundaries also comes the opportunity for growth in the relationship, right? Because that allows a mutual respect. It allows being heard and being seen as far as your emotions and things. And when you're afraid, you know, it's literally a ball and chain around your ankle as well as the relationship's ankle, because you know, you can't grow within it. So just ask yourself, like, what are you so afraid of? Because once you develop, like, an understanding of what you are afraid of, I feel like that's kind of the first step in navigating how to proceed with that. Because if you are afraid of, let's say, rejection, right? Who are you afraid of rejecting? Of rejecting you? Someone who clearly doesn't care enough about you to give you the fucking time of day, or to actually take your emotions into account. So you're afraid of getting rejected from who? A bitch that don't care about you? A bitch that don't give a crap about, like, your actual emotions?
Well, because here's the thing. It's like, I feel like so often people look at boundaries as like a wall or a ceiling. And like, nope, we're putting a cap to what I'm allowed to do or say or act around you, or I have to act a certain way around you. I have to pretend around you. And it's actually quite the opposite. You're giving someone a firm boundary. Like, when we got together, I was like, I've got a couple non-negotiables, okay? And of course, as our relationship has flourished, there are new things that we discover about ourselves that we're like, I think that might have to be a boundary for me, you know? And it doesn't always have to be negative on the other person. It's more so a self-discovery of what you're not going to put up with. So when we first got together, I was like, listen, I've got a couple, literally I had 3 things. I was like, you're not going to cheat on me. You're not going to put your hands on me. I said, and please don't go do drugs.
I was only worried about the last one, but we're sober and we're good. We're doing
so
great.
Exactly. So the first 2 are more from my past relationships and what I had to be worried about happening because of my past traumas. The last one was specifically something that I had to craft for my sweet, beautiful wife. But it wasn't something that was like, hey, if you do this, like, that's the end of our relationship. We're done, whatever. If somebody crosses your boundary, it's kind of up to you to make that decision of when is the final cutoff. Obviously, if you set a boundary and you let somebody continue to cross your boundary without saying anything, without any repercussions, they are going to not care. Okay? So it is a matter of, like, the first time they cross a boundary, you kind of have to be, like, a little forgiving, you know? You kind of have to be like, hey, we had previously talked. This is a boundary for me. Maybe you hadn't talked, but it was a boundary for you. And it seems self-explanatory that that would be a boundary. And be like, hey, this is a boundary for me. We've talked about it before. We haven't, whatever. And proceed from there. If they continue to cross a boundary after you've had 1 or 2 conversations about it, now you really have to make the discovery of, is this person...
Yeah, and let's take just, like, 2 seconds to touch on, like, even what a boundary is. Because, you know, you explained that it's not quite a wall, but boundaries really are just kind of like, you know, what was that game that you were talking about? The red, yellow, green, right? Where it's, like, those lights,
Oh, that
you
was
know?
Kara.
Yeah, okay, that was Kara. Well, boundaries are kind of the same thing, right? Because, like, you have different levels to them, and you have different levels of uncomfortability. And I feel like a boundary is... It can be a non-negotiable, which what you're talking about, because I feel like if I were to come up and sock you in the face, you would be like, that's divorce.
Yeah, that is a red.
So that's a red.
However,
right?
So is the cheating.
Yes.
That is a red. Because been there, done that. Nobody fucking stops cheating. Sidebar. If they cheat on you once, they're going to fucking cheat on you again. 98% of the time. So keep that on their back burner. Anyways, the... please don't go do drugs is a very
yellow,
orangey yellow.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we're going to have a hard fucking conversation and it's going to be very dependent.
I'd be going to rehab, but
there's
I don't want to go back.
There's a lot of rules, regulations, circumstances that go hand in hand with that one, which is nobody's business but ours, because that's our relationship. But there are... True. There is, like, if somebody were to come over and I was like, hey... you want to borrow that book? Yeah, that's a great book, blah, blah, blah. Please don't, like, highlight in it. Please don't bend corners, blah, 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 blah. And they bring it back to me and they didn't do those things, but, like, there's hot Cheeto fingerprints all over it. I might be like, but I'm not going to, like, ruin a friendship over that. Clearly you didn't respect my property. I'm going to take that and know, will you, like, not be a menace today? He's an orange tabby. He has to be a menace. What am I saying? I will never lend you my shit again, but that's just a new thing that's going to happen in my relationship with you, with my friendship with you. That doesn't mean that I'm never going to be your friend again. But yeah, if you sock me in the face, yeah.
Yeah, so there's
me
different
and the cavalry are fucking divorcing
the cavalry, oh my god. So yeah, there's different levels to boundaries, right? Not all of them have to be like a hard stop. Some of them do, some of them don't. But, you know, it's kind of one of those means of self-discovery of what am I willing to tolerate and what am I not willing to tolerate? Am I willing to tolerate a little bit of hot Cheeto dust on my favorite book? Yeah, it's not the end of the universe, but being socked in the face or cheated on by a partner, yeah, that's a big issue. So that's just kind of like an in general outline, I feel like, as to what boundaries are, and there's different levels to them, right? So going into it...
I was going to say, this transitions very well. We're doing really good about having notes, you guys. So this transitions really well into the next point being like, how much your kindness is genuinely, like, you being a good person, it's generosity, you getting, like, stomped on a million fucking times, or is it, like, are you doing that out of the kindness of your heart, or are you doing that because you're scared of what's going to happen when you finally say no? Because, again, that goes hand in hand with, if you're scared that you telling somebody, like, I don't rock with this equals them cutting you. Who cares, bro? Like,
well, yeah, and it's literally, you know, not only who cares, but it shows that they don't. It shows that they do not care. You are not a person to them. You are an asset. You are literally no different than a McDonald's worker giving them something, giving them a certain service.
And on that note, if you're just a McDonald's worker to them, what happens when somebody says, hey, I want a raise, and McDonald's says, no, and the person says, all right, well, I'm better than this, and they leave. McDonald's will hire someone tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, I'm scared that I'm going to set a boundary, or I'm going to put my fucking foot down finally, and somebody is like, that's bullshit. That doesn't sit well with me. I don't want to associate with you anymore. I don't respect that boundary. They will replace you with no thought to it. If you matter enough to them, this doesn't have to be relationship breaking or even relationship altering.
And that's the thing too, is like, you shouldn't be replaceable in someone's life. If you are replaceable in someone's life, then you need to leave that situation pronto, because you of yourself are someone that has value. You have intrinsic value, you have character, you have heart, you have things to bring to the table. And if somebody is not recognizing that, and they're just eating at your table and literally not contributing anything to the meal, then they are your enemy in disguise. So recognizing that, because, you know, this can't be, when you set boundaries, it cannot be a reflection also of your self-worth, because how people respond to your boundaries does not determine how you are as a person, right? That shows a mirror to who they are as people, because if you're around the right people, the way that they respond to your boundaries will directly reflect their love for you. And you want to surround yourself with people who do love you and do care about you and respect you enough to be able to understand your emotions and respond accordingly.
Well, and at some point you have to sit down and you have to recognize that you continuously letting somebody cross a boundary with you or disrespect your wants, your needs, your whatever, you're abandoning yourself. You are letting go of your boundaries with yourself, because the number one thing should be, you need to set a boundary with yourself that nobody's going to be able to cross these boundaries with you. And if they do cross it, there's a conversation to be had, or repercussions per se. Because someone who is continuously crossing your boundaries doesn't care. And I feel like that's the biggest takeaway.
And constantly being a people pleaser, constantly saying yes when you want to say no, that doesn't salvage a relationship. It prolongs a death that needs to happen. Because again, that person is a taker and you are the giver, which is such a toxic point to be in a relationship. So.
Even just like answering the phone when you don't want to answer the phone, like, that's you breaking a boundary with yourself. You are telling yourself, I will be, like, you're literally putting yourself on the back burner so someone else gets satisfaction. So that someone else doesn't look at you and go, you're not a good friend.
Yeah, which goes into our next talking point of, when someone repeatedly crosses a boundary, at what point does continuing to give chances abandoning yourself?
Why do you think I brought us to this point? Because I already went over that one. I'm on to the next thing.
Sorry, jeez.
What happens is one of us will start typing up notes, taking notes in like our app, and then we just kind of go back and forth going over the notes, and sometimes this helps us stay on track for our podcast, if you guys have noticed, but it also gets confusing.
Yeah, for sure.
We need to like start crossing them out.
Yeah,
as we go.
Absolutely.
So our next point, actually, because we already kind of touched with you guys on, if somebody is repeatedly crossing a boundary and you're not saying anything, you're not doing anything, you're just letting it happen, and you're abandoning yourself, are you communicating your boundaries, though? Or are you just hoping that people are going to know that this is a boundary, and you just need to know that, because everybody has different morals. Everybody has a different background. Everybody has a different story. Therefore, everybody has a different way of viewing relationships, respect, trust, giving, taking, what is just a given, in a relationship, like, I would automatically assume that you don't hit someone when you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Not everybody thinks that way. So,
unfortunately not.
My brain literally just went
I saw the light leave your eyes. I was like, what's... But, okay, when it comes to that, in therapy, we call that mind reading, right? When you expect someone to be able to read your mind and to immediately know your wants and needs and what you require as a human being, right? And that's kind of, it's similar to when a child, I feel like, is crying and they are immediately needing a parental figure to automatically assume that they need food, they need their diaper changed, they need attention, they need to be held, etc., etc. So this is a very natural human response. I'm not calling you a child if you do this, you know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that it's a very natural human response to just kind of expect people that you care about to instinctively know how to take care of you. But unfortunately, especially in adulthood, communication is key to maintaining any sort of relationship. So effectively communicating your boundaries to someone, and when I say boundaries, communicating things that make you uncomfortable, or if something upsets you, being able to effectively communicate that, because setting boundaries doesn't have to be setting rules. It doesn't have to be like, hey, I am uncomfortable if you break these rules. Setting boundaries can also be communicating, hey, what you did last Tuesday when we went out for coffee really made me uncomfortable. That is also setting a boundary, because it's communicating what makes you upset and what your emotions actually are. So
100%.
Yeah.
And that's where it comes into, like, you had a conversation. That's conversation one. We went out for coffee. I was uncomfortable. I was hurt. I was upset, etc. If conversation number 2 has to happen in regards to, hey, remember the first time we talked about how that made me uncomfortable? Well, when we were just out doing mini golf with the group, it happened again. So I feel like we need to have a conversation about where this friendship is going. You can also, and some people are going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe you would recommend that. You don't have to have conversation number 2. You don't have to involve yourself anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that person is going to, at some point, you would imagine, if they care about you, which is a question mark if they've made you uncomfortable twice after having a conversation, you could just distance yourself. And when that person comes to you and they're like, what's going on? You're acting weird. Then you can present it. You don't always have to be the person that's like, I have a problem. You hurt my feelings. You can have the conversation the first time, and if they cross it a second time, you don't have to pick up the phone and have that conversation again. You can distance yourself from that person. You can put a little barrier between you two,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to come to you now. You don't always have to be, I'm going to say something that not everybody's going to like. You don't always have to be the bigger person. You don't always have to be the person that's working on the healing for the whole fucking group. Work on your healing, work on your peace, work on your safety and your sanity. Everybody else can either get on board or they don't have to.
Yeah.
You know? Why can enforcing a boundary feel cruel even when tolerating the behavior is destroying your own peace? Where did you learn that protecting yourself makes you a bad person? Ooh, that one's at you.
I feel like that kind of goes into a little bit of, there was this speech that I read that was, it's also in the Bible, but someone actually switched it to be more poetic, if you know, you know. And it was, who taught you? Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you to, just who taught you how to behave this way? Who taught you to hate yourself? Who taught you how to not like who you are as a person? Who taught you how to, you know what I mean, do these things? And I genuinely feel like a lot of times, and I'm going to sound a little Sigmund Freud here, okay? But a lot of times the way that we were raised directly can reflect how we respond to setting boundaries, as well as if setting boundaries makes you a bad person, right? Because if you grew up in an environment that was incredibly hostile, where it wasn't safe to communicate your emotions, where you had to be the peacekeeper in your household just to have a good fucking night, you know, you're not going to be someone who is very confident in setting those boundaries, because that could mean war, right? That could mean absolute catastrophe. So sometimes when you grow up in those environments, it feels almost safer to abandon yourself and to put yourself in this position of, I'm going to be on the back burner, because not only do I not want to be in the line of fire, but I don't want to be the enemy of your destructive force. So really, I feel like that is kind of it brings to light a little bit of a trauma response that a lot of people have, because if you're so afraid of being the bad guy in a situation where you're just trying to protect your peace, you know, that comes from a point where you were the absolute enemy when you probably had nothing to do with the issue at hand.
Well, I feel like setting boundaries is a struggle for people who, like you said, grew up in hostile environments, people who have been in narcissistic and abusive relationships, because honestly, if you've had it good, if you've got good people around you, you're not even looking at it as setting a boundary, because you just have to have a conversation and then it moves on. It's a great day. Your people support you. They're whatever. It is a hurdle to learn what setting a boundary is, what that looks like, and the importance of it for the better of yourself, instead of looking at it as a sense of hurting someone else. I think that, again, the people that grew up in hostile, toxic environments, that have been in toxic, hostile relationships, people who have been with narcissists, it is very easy to feel a sense of like you're almost like abandoning or self-sabotaging. What was that word? Self-sabotage or self-abandonment by setting boundaries, because you're like, well, then I'm going to lose this friendship, and if I lose this friendship, I'm going to be alone. It's like a spiral that happens in your brain. So I think that learning that your peace comes first, and if anybody's going to continuously put you in a position of feeling unpeaceful, unrest, they don't need to have a seat at your table. And that's easier said than done, right? But knowing that you're not a bad person for protecting yourself, because nobody else is going to protect you. You have to do it for yourself, because even in our relationship, I will protect you with my own motherfucking life. But you are going to protect yourself even more so than I would protect myself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's even going into the conversation that we had last night with my fear of flying, right? Because, you know, if you don't know, I have a phobia of flying and of heights. I could sit through a tattoo for freaking 12 hours, but put me on a plane and I freak out. Okay, so, we're literally we're having a cute date night, we're in the bathtub, and we're talking about our next trip, and we're going to be going out of the country, and it's going to be super exciting, and I'm thinking about the plane.
It's going to be so great.
And I'm thinking, we are going to go during hurricane season, and I was like, oh my god. And I'm telling her, I'm like, can you grab your phone, can you Google when the last plane crash was due to weather, blah blah blah. And she's trying to tell me all these things, and then eventually she looks at me and goes, honey, I can tell you as much data as you want. I can comfort you as much as I can until my tongue falls out. But you are going to have to self-soothe and self-comfort, because you are going to combat absolutely everything that I say with your own anxiety. No one can stop your own anxiety except for you. So I feel like that kind of is the same thing. Not everybody, you are going to be the one to protect your peace the most. There's not going to be a single person on planet Earth that is going to be here to solely protect you. That's going to be a job that you have to fulfill, unfortunately.
Yeah, because you can hear all the podcasts, you can read all the books, you can ask all the advice from your friends, your family, but at the end of the day, the person who is going to be able to soothe you the most is you. Internally, you are going to tell yourself that it's okay. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter that I give you little trinkets on every layover of every stretch of the flight. It doesn't matter that you... It doesn't matter how many times our friends are like, dude, car accidents happen way more often and you drive a car without hesitation because you immediately combat it.
Car accidents have a lower mortality rate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just saying, 30,000 feet's a hell of a drop.
Okay. We're not here to scare the people out of flying.
Okay. Moving on.
You have to comfort yourself, and you have to recognize that standing up for yourself, being there for yourself, that's one of the only things that you can offer yourself. Like, genuinely, that's one of the best things you can do for yourself. And if we're going to talk about, like, progress and growth and you turning into the bigger, better version of yourself and blah, 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 you cannot quantum leap with all the baggage of all the other people and all their other bullshit. So if you want to elevate and be a better version of yourself, you want to come into your higher power, you want to be the highest version of yourself, you are going to have to put yourself first. You are going to have to do that, and that doesn't have to always look so harsh and blunt and brutal as cutting people off. But the people that are going to come with you are going to have to respect you. And a way to figure that out is to start setting boundaries and getting people to hear you out. You know what I mean? And sometimes setting boundaries is okay because it's going to expose the people that are not willing to grow with you to go where you're going. So, what relationships in your life would fundamentally change if you stopped accepted behavior simply because you're afraid of losing that person? That's a question for everybody on the other side of the screen, because we ain't gonna call no shit out right now.
Yeah.
Because we know that the people that we...
Uh-huh.
But as we're talking about this, there's no way that you're not sitting on the other side of this screen. I know that we're sitting here on this side of this screen. We know who we're talking about. We know the people that continuously are crossing boundaries. As soon as you saw that title about setting boundaries and holding to them, someone popped in your head. At least one person popped in your head. Otherwise, you wouldn't have clicked on this video. Mm-hmm. We're talking about it because we know people that we have had to cross out, set boundaries with. People
Some
that
of
we
them
are
have been
currently
family.
people we are currently setting boundaries with. Side-eye. Not me side-eyeing like I'm setting boundaries with you. You got what I meant. The people don't got what I got. If someone only respects your boundary after you become angry, distant, or ready to leave, were they ever actually confused about the boundary, or were they testing what you would tolerate?
They were testing what you would tolerate.
100%, bro, because that's the thing. You had a conversation about what happened at coffee. You had a conversation about what happened at mini golf. Now you're fucking pissed. You're not answering their calls. You're putting a distance here. And now they want to be confused. This is like when a woman has said for 10 fucking years that she's not going to put up with the dirty socks and the dishes. The dirty socks and the dirty dishes. Dirty socks, dirty dishes. She's not putting up with the And then finally one day she fucking snaps and he is like, she's crazy. She just lost it over my fucking socks, bro. Or a woman continuously tells you that she's feeling abandoned, she's feeling like she's not being met emotionally, blah, 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 blah. And then, well, the divorce came out of nowhere. And I have literally heard that so many fucking times. Even in my own divorce, when I came home with divorce papers, it was like, oh my God, this is so out of left field. You literally were sleeping with someone else. How is this out of fucking left field? Like...
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like people do test what you can handle and what you're willing to put up with, because ultimately, especially if they're in the receiving end of that relationship, right? Especially if there's someone getting something out of it. They don't want to give you up. You're literally the provider.
You are an asset to them.
Yes.
So, keep that in mind. If you are valuable to somebody, they're either going to do what they got to do to keep their little Birkin bag all shiny and nice and polished in the closet, or like there is no or. Like, if you are valuable to somebody, they should be taking care of you. Mm-hmm. They should be making sure that you feel valued and that you are being taken care of, and you want to stay there. You want to continuously bounce off of each other, because that's another thing. Yes, there are givers and there are takers, but you have to recognize that as a giver, you should also be getting something back. Mm-hmm. Not every relationship needs to be like super beneficial, mutually beneficial. Like there is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the analogy that like in a relationship, it's not always 50-50, because if she's having a bad day and she can only provide 10%, I'm going to pull up with 90. No problem. But then vice versa, when I'm having a bad day and I can only provide 5%, she's pulling up with 95%. Okay? Like, and then there will be days where we're doing 50-50. There are going to be days where I'm pulling 100 and she's pulling 100. And now we're at 200% capacity and we're fucking flying through the day. We are killing it. But that's how a relationship should go. And that's mm-hmm. not just with your wife, with your husband. That is with family, that is with friends, that is in business relationships. There needs to be give and take. I am buying a product off of you, I'm giving you your money, but that product I'm going to turn around and use on all these people and all these clients, and I'm going to make money off of it. I'm using you as a manufacturer to help me build a product line. I'm giving you money, you're doing all these things for me, but then I'm going to turn around and I'm going, you know what I'm saying? Like there needs to be give and take here.
Yeah. And really think about, flip the perspective, right? Because if you're trying to justify someone else's taking without giving, think about how you would have responded in that, right? Think about how if someone were to come to you and say, hey, what you did last Tuesday really pissed me off, or I was really hurt by it. How would you have responded, right? Because you would have responded a lot differently than how the other person did. Because mm-hmm. And you need to recognize that if you're able to respond accordingly and to be able to respect other people's emotions, then you should be surrounding yourself with people who are able to do that as well. If you can't, if you're one of those people that are watching this video that are takers, you're not a bad person, but do some self-reflection on where can you be a little bit more independent? And I feel like all of setting boundaries kind of comes into that as well, because people who take are very codependent, and people who can't set boundaries are also very codependent because they don't want to lose that relationship. And you shouldn't be focused on being codependent. That's not cute. That's codependency isn't cute. What is cute is independence, right? You should be independent in your emotions, independent in your ability to take care of yourself, and then invite people along the way, So really, I feel like it all does center
If you feel like you're falling into the codependency, I cannot recommend the book Codependent No More. The audiobook, whatever you need to do. Amazing book. Be cautious when you lean into your independence to not be hyper independent either. Mm-hmm. Because that's now like the opposite. I'm trying to battle being hyper independent and let my beautiful wife come in and help me with things. So,
but I mean, sidebar, that makes the simplest things that I do. I am fucking King Midas. I roll up with a coffee and bring it to her for work, and she's like, "Oh my god, you're so nice."
She showed up with Subway and coffee yesterday while I was at work, and I was like, "Did you cheat on me?" And she's like, "What?" And I was like,
"No, this is your lunch hour. I thought you'd be hungry. Here you go."
Weird. If somebody is continuously crossing boundaries and they're waiting until you get mad and then they're like, "You're crazy, you're a psychopath," is there a way that you can forgive them without letting them back into the same position in your life?
Well, forgiveness doesn't necessarily mean that it allows you the same position that you were once in.
Clock it. If you get fired or if you quit a job and you come back a year later and you're like, "Hey, yeah, that other place didn't work out. Can I have my job back?" They're going to be like, "No. Mm-hmm. We can start you in a different position." Yeah. Maybe, if it's available. And how did you leave when you left? Mm-hmm. So...
Well, and I feel like forgiveness is an act in itself, but it doesn't excuse the behavior, right? So if somebody is constantly crossing your boundaries and disrespecting you and just really not giving two shakes of a rat's ass about you, and they come back to you and they're like, "Listen, I've been doing a lot of internal thinking. I've been working on myself, and I'm really sorry for everything that I've done." You can respond and say, "You know what? I hear you. I can recognize that you've done some work on yourself, but your consequence, your actions have consequences, and we're not going to be as close as we once were because of these things.
And that's how it should be. Because if you and somebody have a falling out, or they continuously are showing that they disrespect you, whatever that looks like, that relationship has made a shift. That person does not want to grow with you. They are not willing to listen to you, hear where you're at, hear what's hurting you and upsetting you. You shouldn't continuously put that person on a pedestal or continuously.
Ooh, I'm bad at that. I'm bad at putting people on pedestals.
I know.
But it also reveals, and this is something to reframe it, which did really help me, because a lot of the boundary setting that I've had to learn throughout my life has been with my immediate family. We won't call out who. Not that he watches this fucking show. But it has been with my immediate family, and
There's a couple.
Yeah. And there have so many times I have put them on a pedestal, right? And not even on a pedestal of you're better than me, you're wiser than me, you're older than me. It's not even like that. I have used the excuse, but they're family. They're family.
You
they're
big Italian motherfucker.
Yeah, I need to. I don't like what they did, but they're family. But what I was doing is continuously turning my head away to the fact that they have a parasitic nature about me. And it's not even the fact that maybe, because sometimes, yeah, I was being very used, especially for finances, with certain people. But other times, it was a parasitic nature, as far as you are literally sucking the energy and the emotion and the light out of my soul. You are literally just taking all of my joy away, and for why? But
if you can feel somebody doing that to you when you're hanging out with them, or you have to you feel obligated to go to dinner with them. You feel obligated to go hang out with them, to pick up the phone and call them. You feel an obligation because there's like this, it's going to drain me. I don't really have the energy for this right now. That is a red flag in its own. That parasitic nature that you feel with someone, that right there is a pretty clear sign of what that relationship looks like and how you already feel about that.
Mm-hmm. You should leave the situation feeling more recharged, not more drained.
What does it say about yourself when you're letting those parasitic people continuously make you break promises that you've made to yourself to maintain those with them?
Yeah, so to the people watching, I'm gonna hold your hand while I say this, because it doesn't make you a bad person, but it shows that you do. Again, I'm gonna hold your hand. It shows that you do have low self-esteem, because
low self-worth,
low self-esteem, and furthermore, the fear of being alone, right? Because you're surrounded.
I have that.
Yes, you do. You're surrounding yourself with people who you're giving yourself quantity over quality, right? And you're not valuing yourself enough. You're not having that self-confidence and that self-worth to be like, I can do better than this. This is not worth my time. You are not treating me in a way that is deserving of who I am as a person. So I feel as though when people are continuously letting other people walk all over them, it does show a little bit of that trauma response. And I'm not saying that, like I said, it doesn't make you a bad person. Maybe you're traumatized like me and you have issues. Maybe, you do have a fear of abandonment. Maybe a lot of people in your life walked out on you, and that sucks. But you do have to recognize the fact that this is a trauma response. This is a toxic behavior within myself that gives me low self-value.
And that it shows you're lacking self-love. But this is a conversation Frankie and I have very often, where working on your self-love, your self-value, your self-confidence, your self-worth, all of that self, having a good sense of self and what you bring to the table is where it all starts. That's where it all stems from. That's where you have to work on so much internally, and girl, that sucks, okay? A lot of shadow work that you've got to get digging deep on. but that will inherently bring better relationships to the table. And also keep that in mind. If somebody is gonna replace you, why can't you replace them? And you don't even have to, okay? Because I will tell you one thing, girl. A small circle is so beautiful. It is so nice to only be surrounded by people that respect you, love you, and take care of you the same way that you're trying to take care of them. Which I know that our last point we've kind of touched throughout the whole entirety of the podcast, but our last main point was, if a relationship disappears, falls off, break up, etc., due to you setting boundaries, was it ever even a relationship that you should have been involved in? Is it ever a person that should have been benefiting off a seat at your table?
Yeah. No. And the reason I say no is because...
You said no.
Well, if a relationship ends because you decided to set boundaries and were firm on those boundaries, that person, A, only ever enjoyed you for what you could bring to the table, and B, again, I'm going to hold your hand and I say this because it reveals something about you. It shows that you only liked the idea of that relationship, because the reality of that relationship where you were not treated right. You were not treated with value. You were not treated with respect. So you were in love with the mirage, the idea, the fake fantasization of that relationship, because the reality of it was you were not in an environment where you were actually being nurtured. You were in an environment where you were being suckled dry.
Yep. Remember, water is free at home. You pay $9 for a bottle of frickin' Dasani at a concert. You'll pay $15 for that same bottle of water if you are in an airport. Mm-hmm. Go where you're valued. Mm-hmm. Go where somebody looks at you like the bottle of water when they have freshly landed in an international airport after a 14-hour flight.
Mm-hmm. You are a bottle of Fiji, my love.
Yeah.
But
Fiji
yeah,
water.
I feel like if a relationship ends because of boundaries, there was never a solid foundation. A relationship should be able to handle many a seasons, many a trials and tribulations, or even a friendship, right? You should be able to handle a friendship fight. You should be able to handle, like, bitch, that was fucked up what you did to me. You totally got drunk and door-dinged my car, and I fucking hate that.
Ben.
We love you, Ben. But, you should be able to handle those type of hard conversations. If you can't, there was never a solid foundation. And if there's not a solid foundation, the house is always going to be rickety, and it's going to take one gust of wind to blow that shit down. And it just so happened that your boundaries was the big bad wolf that went...
A house of cards. Mm-hmm. Glass houses. Blah, 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 blah. Whatever they say. Yeah, you should recognize that friends, family, partnerships, they are supposed to grow with you. They are there for... We just had this conversation with your mom at the cabin. Relationships are either a reason, a season, a lesson, or a blessing. And, like, you kind of have to figure out what...
I love
a
you.
lesson or a blessing. You have to figure out what this relationship is. Okay? You have to figure out who lifts you up. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I said, there doesn't have to be 50-50 constantly. You don't have to be constantly 100% coming in at 200% capacity. You have to, at the very least, you have to at least realize that on a shit day, I think that's something that really helped me start recognizing relationships with the people around me was, when I'm in my lowest, who is still calling me? Who still wants to hang out? When I'm currently going through, whether it's a mental struggle, whether it's, hey girl, we're working on our next big project, so I don't have a lot of time, or hey, we're saving and we're trying to pay this off or do this or whatever. I don't have a whole lot of funds to be able to run around and do ABC. I have to skip out on the next concert or what have you. The people that are still like, I don't care. Let's do a game night at the house. Let's cook in tonight. Let's okay, sorry you're going through it mentally. How can I help? Like, you know, the people that I have that when I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sick, will freaking DoorDash a Sprite and a bottle of Dayquil to me. You know what I mean? Like, it's about when you're going through the worst of it, who is there with you through that? Because it's really easy for somebody to sit with you and be there with you through the good days and the best parts of it. It's who's going to be there for you just as hard and just as loud in your low and your hard times.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of all of the fake friendships that I had through active addiction. Because when I was up and when I had money, everybody wanted to be my friend. But then when I was dry and I was dope sick, okay, talk to you later. You know? So it just really shows, you know, who is your friend, who's not your friend. 'Cause
I had a falling out with a friend where I had to, and I felt like, here's the other thing, is if you feel like you are continuously bringing up the same point of when that person let you down, and you're like, gosh, I feel like I have brought this up a million times over the last 2, 3, 4 years, maybe there's a reason you're continuing to hold on to that moment where you felt like you were done dirty. It's because you're not in a place to forgive that person. You shouldn't continue to have that relationship. Because I felt like when I just had a falling out with someone this past year, I felt like I, for the millionth time, brought up the fact that they were not there for me during my divorce. They were not there for me when I had to sell my house, put my dog down, I was being abused, I was being cheated on, and if I have to continuously say that and feel like you're not listening to me, then this relationship has ran its course. Because you weren't there for me in the worst of my life. But while I was going through that and you were going through shit, I was still the only person in your corner. When you're going through something so rough, so hard, so earth-shattering, and you're still showing up for people, you have to question. That brings us back to, why are you putting yourself on the back burner for other people? Who taught you that that's how you're supposed to go about that? So we asked you guys a lot of questions. I don't expect you guys to like answer these in the comments because that's personal. But just sit down with yourself, grab a journal, and or if you're listening to this in the car, just take mental note of these things and really like press pause, rewind it, press pause on each question, and really ask yourself those things. That book that I recommended, Codependent No More, she does that. At the end of each chapter, she specifically asks, because I listened to it on Audible, she will ask you, like, questions from each chapter that you kind of have to dive in with yourself. So I encourage everybody to do that with each question that we segmented out throughout this podcast so that you can really... Because like I said, I know that when you read this title, before you even started listening to this podcast, you were thinking of somebody who consistently gets to cross boundaries with you. And you're like, why am I letting this person do that? So ask yourself these questions and really sit with yourself with this. Because you don't deserve to be surrounded by people. Even if it's just one person. That person does not deserve to continuously put you in stress, unrest. You know what I mean? Like... Put it to rest.
Yeah. Put it to rest. For sure.
Put it in a coffin.
Put it... R.I.P., bitch.
R.I.P., bitch. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap this up. We have a long day ahead of us. So we're sipping our coffee with you this morning, talking about toxic relationships.
We're literally in our jammies. I have my Stitch blankie.
We have orange sweatpants.
Yeah, by the way, why you look like a fucking prisoner right now? You got your gray sweater with the fucking orange. We're on Orange is the New Black right now.
I'm about to be in Orange is the New Black. I'm about to beat your ass.
Hey, that's a non-negotiable.
Oh my god. Okay, well, we will catch you guys next week. Have a great day, and bye, baddies.
Adios, guys.